What is up, beautiful people? Welcome back to the Made to Excel Fitness Podcast, a fitness podcast for you, by you. I'm your host, as always, Mark Torres. And in today's episode, episode 11, it is the first interview in Made to Excel Fitness Podcast history. I am joined by my friend Arman, aka Cheesy Fit on Instagram. He is a California-based online personal trainer. He is the owner of Sentinel Intelligence Training and Nutrition Coaching, and just an overall smart guy. We talk about reps and reserve. We talk about minimum effective volume. And you guys might not know what this stuff is just yet, but he does a great job explaining that in the interview. We talk about mustaches, we talk about ice cream, we talk about a lot of fun stuff. It was a great interview. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. And for those of you guys watching on the YouTube channel, you might notice a little past the halfway point that there's a visible change. We're wearing different clothes, it's a different day. And that's because after the first Zoom call that we had, Arman hits me back up and he says, you know what, I think I can even explain that part that I did even a little bit better. So if that just goes to show what kind of guy Arman is, he's a man of the people. He wanted to come back and even better help you guys understand some of the concepts that he was talking about. So there's a visible change for some of you guys watching on the YouTube channel. For those of you guys listening to audio only, you probably would never know the difference. But if you are watching on the YouTube, make sure to stay after the show is over so you can see probably the coolest Zoom background in the history of all Zoom backgrounds. Ton of fun, great interview. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. Without further ado, Arman, aka Cheesy Fit. Let's talk about it. There we go. Oh, yeah, there we go. All right, we're in here now. All right, recording. Good. I think everything's good. I hope everything's good. This would be a tragedy if I lost it all. Anyways, like I said before, welcome to the show, Made to Excel Fitness Podcast. You're the first ever guest. Super excited. First and foremost, so I guess according to Instagram memories, we've technically known each other for like just over 2 years now.
Wow.
You were the first person that was not a family member or a friend to buy one of my shirts, and it was this shirt
Really?
specifically. I wore specifically for the podcast.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, and it was super cool in that moment, and I appreciate you for it, because you never know, like those family friends buys, or their pity buys, or like, do they actually like it? I never know. So that was cool. And then obviously from there we had like a familiarity with each other. We've had some back and forths on Instagram. But this is the first time I've ever spoken to you, so there's a lot to learn about you, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But I wanted to ask you also, obviously you're in California, I'm in New York, the whole coronavirus thing, how's it going? Do you feel like you're like getting to a sense of normalcy, or you're still far away?
To be honest, I'm actually really enjoying it. So
I'm in the same boat.
I feel a little guilty admitting that, because I know a lot of people are, suffering and they hate being at home and secluded. And aside from all the, bad stuff going on as
Right.
far as like the health issues and financial losses people are experiencing, I kind of wish this kept going.
I'm kind of in the same boat, but yeah, I can definitely see.
I have a pretty good routine going. I wake up early in the morning. I'll read. I'll go for lots of walks. I'll study. I'll do my work on the computer. So it's not really too much different from, normal life, except there's less people out on the street. And yeah, I'm not hating it.
Right. How often do you find yourself actually like leaving the house? Or you're in the house most of the time, anyways.
No, I leave my house quite a bit. I mean, at least like 3 times a day, but I'll just go for walks, around my neighborhood. Right. So I'm not, sitting at home all day long.
Right. Yeah. I kind of enjoy it too, but I do feel like I've gotten a little bit lazier. I used to be like 6 a.m. riser. Let's get it going. Let's work out, get everything out of the way. And now I'm like getting up at like 8, 9 o'clock, getting to it when I get to it. And like this week has been the first week where I've kind of gotten better about it. Obviously it's only Wednesday, so it's 3 days into it. But yeah, it's been a weird experience, but not too bad, I think. So you still have like a little ways to go, you think, until everything starts reopening, or have things started reopening already?
No, I think it's going to be quite a bit, because anything short of a vaccine, like nothing really changes.
Right.
If things start reopening, it'll be because people are upset and bored of staying at home, not because the situation has actually improved, you know?
Right. Yeah,
So
well, I know California is probably like the farthest one out, right? Because some people are open. Arizona's open, like they're ripping roaring already. And
really,
New York's starting to open at the end of this week, I think, or the beginning of next week.
yeah.
Some things are opening, but not everything.
Hmm.
California's a little way out, I think, but I don't know how specifically different parts of California are operating. So yeah, I was
Yeah.
just curious about that. So like I said, this is the first time we've ever spoken. The only things I know about you are through your Instagram. So I wanted to give you a little bit of an opportunity to talk us through a little bit of. By the way, this is Arman, aka Cheesy Fit, on Instagram. So give us a little bit of like uh, the Cheesy Fit fitness journey when you started working out, how it became like a professional thing, or what your relationship with fitness is. You know, whatever you feel like is necessary to share.
Okay. Well, so it's been, I started working out, it was December 1st, because of course, I wanted to get in there before all the New Year's resolution people did. It
Like
was
last
December,
year, December 1st?
no, 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 no,
Oh,
December
I was
1st,
like, geez.
2014.
Okay.
So
Oh, so it's still pretty recent.
yeah, still pretty recent, like, a little over 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And before that, I was always, I mean, I wouldn't say athletic, but active.
Mm-hmm.
I never did any of like the conventional team sports in school, but I did like downhill mountain biking and
Oh, wow.
rappelling, snowboarding, so stuff like that. It's not super common, but I, but
Adrenaline junkie, you would say?
I not really. I know a
No.
lot of people think that when I mention those things, but I mean, I just enjoyed
I see
them.
you whipping your truck around the snow. So,
Yeah,
you know, I,
yeah. I'm actually currently fixing it, so
my
yeah.
muffler literally fell off my truck last night. So I know how
Oh
that
my
is.
goodness, yeah.
I was scraping it on the ground for at least a mile.
Oh,
Yeah, no, not good.
that hurts. That hurts. So, so yeah, when I was in, I think middle school, my dad got me a, gym membership,
Hmm.
and well, before I actually signed up at the gym, they gave us a week or 2 week trial pass. So I went every single day, and of course, like when I was there, I tried all the machines, and then as soon as I got the membership, I never went back because I didn't know what I was doing, and it was
Right.
just it was boring, and I just didn't want to go in. I had better things to do, and so. Um, Fast forward to 2014, and I knew that I couldn't just go in and get started and just do whatever. So I found this guy that worked at a Shop, and he was nice enough to just write out like a routine, total bro split, like
That's cool. Yeah.
one body part per day for 5 days or whatever. So he did that, and that's basically what I did for the first few years. Um, and as I like went along and got more experience, I added more, and that's the thing, I just kept adding more and more because I was missing things, and if I like removed one thing, of course I would lose all the gains in that one muscle, so I
Yeah.
didn't do that, obviously. And so yeah, up until a few years ago, where I got into a more science-based approach,
Hmm.
and I discovered natural bodybuilding, and that was great. And I really am grateful that I was able to find that, because I think with um, natural bodybuilding, you're limited with how much progress you can make if you don't go about things in a smart way.
Right.
Nothing against the enhanced route or the NPC guys. That's just a different category. They're untested, so it's not like they're cheating because
Right.
they're taking steroids. But you can get away with quite a bit more without actually doing things in the optimal way,
Hmm.
uh, because what you lack in like technique or knowledge or whatever, sometimes the the extra supplements can fix that stuff.
Yeah.
And if you're natural, like that's just not an option, so you have to do things, you have to go about things a little bit more intelligently.
Right.
So
Was there any particular reason you got into fitness in 2014, or it just kind of randomly happened? Like
yeah,
at least you got like started like in a more like focused approach, I guess.
what happened was is I went on a jog with my friend,
Hmm.
and he was like, he just started training with some like, you know, local IFBB pro or something.
Oh Jesus!
Yeah,
Like
he
just
ended
went.
up losing a ton of weight. He wasn't like a buff guy or anything. He just was really overweight. So yeah, and I was like, you know what? I think it's time I start, because my whole life I've kind of been a fat kid and like insecure about the way I looked and my weight. And so from day one, it was always just like, of course I wanted to, you know, gain muscle, but I also wanted to lose all the fat that I had and just have abs. Like, of course, that's, you know, the number one goal, to
Right.
just have abs.
Absolutely. And then like when you started exploring natural bodybuilding, was that like Matt Ogus, like YouTube, like Chris Jones, or like you had a different avenue into the natural bodybuilding scene?
No, it was a little different actually. It's kind of funny because I've met Matt Ogus, but I wasn't even like fanboying, or I didn't really even know about him until I
Uh-huh.
met him, and
After
like
the
two other
fact.
friends we hung out. So that was kind of
What?
cool. Yeah, super random. I mean, like, not to name drop or anything, but
Not to name drop.
no, but all I'm saying is like, you know, he's a cool guy, and I
Yeah,
like because he's a cool guy, not because he's like, oh, some like influencer. Like, I don't
right.
really know what's going on in like the influencer scene. Um, it just, you know,
That's
happened to
insane.
stumble across it and met some pretty cool
He's
people.
just a local guy. Like that's how you met him.
No, he's in Sacramento.
Oh, so it was just a happenstance meeting between you guys.
Yeah, it was at a natural bodybuilding show.
Oh shit, okay. No, that's
Yeah.
awesome. And then the other thing I wanted to ask you, so is your main income right now, is it through personal training or you have another job in personal training on the side?
So I'm actually a surgical tech,
Right.
and I ended up quitting that, and now I'm just doing online coaching.
Oh Jesus. And you've got like clients, you're like fully booked up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not fully booked up. I'm still building it up.
Hmm.
I actually did get a job at Gold's Gym that I ended up.
I was gonna ask you about that.
Yeah,
I saw that.
I
I
don't
don't know if
know.
you want me to bleep out the name of the gym or, but
I don't. Uh,
I was gonna
I,
ask you because you were only there for like 2 days, right?
yeah, yeah.
And like, what are the trials and tribulations of working in a commercial gym?
Well,
I know, I kind of have an idea of like why those 2 days were like that was it for you, but was there
it
anything else?
it wasn't like, you know, I had a really bad experience or people were mean to me. Like, the
Right.
manager was super cool. She was very understanding of my decision. uh, you know, all the other trainers were fine too. I just wasn't really comfortable with the amount of money they were charging people,
Right.
and what people were actually getting, you know, for what they were paying. Because most people, when they come to the gym, like, they just want to lose weight, they want to feel a little bit better about themselves, um, and you know that, and they think they're going to achieve that through exercising and personal training.
Right.
uh, but when you do that, you don't really learn that much. So, you know, people do like a 12-week package of personal training, and then it's over, and then they walk away with the exact same habits. I mean, maybe there's like a small change in weight, but
Hmm.
like, not much changes, you know. And I wasn't comfortable with like selling people, you know, these crazy packages where they'd have to pay, you know, almost $1,000 a month, and they
Yeah.
would see like no results. You know, it's mainly like a nutrition issue if you're overweight,
Right.
and like, you just don't get that from personal training. So, you know, what online coaching costs is a fraction of that, and people get results. I mean, I have clients who like don't even go to the gym, and like, one of my clients checked in yesterday and she's down like 30 pounds officially, like, as of yesterday, which is
Jesus.
amazing.
That's
Yeah,
amazing. Yeah.
I mean, and recently, and we're not on a meal plan, like, nothing like that, just developing better habits, slowly changing patterns, and it just being realistic of what to expect, because this
Right.
wasn't overnight, you know. This was like, I think, 23 weeks or something
Hmm.
in. um, so yeah, it's
Right.
just little steps.
Yeah, it's hard to instill like long-term, uh, like lifelong habits in the 12 weeks that they expect you to. And then like by week 10 and 11, they're pushing you to already get another 12 weeks out of them. And like that's how it was when I was an intern at a gym here. It's not a big chain or anything. It was like a high-end gym. And even those guys, they were pushing sales so much, and they have their own sales department. I'm sure Golds has the same thing, their own sales department, and it was
Mhm.
like a machine in and of itself, aside from the personal training aspect of it. And just I don't know, it's kind of a part of the industry already as it is, and it's kind of hard to escape it. But yeah, I can totally see that. But you
For
did have another gym that you were working at one point, and then you stopped that as well, or
Uh,
you just joined another gym?
no, no, I just joined another gym.
Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha. That was a cool looking gym. It was like a Metroflex kind of like half like
yeah, yeah. It's called
grungy, half
Metro
nice.
Fitness, actually.
Huh?
It's called Metro Fitness,
Oh
actually.
yeah, okay. Yeah. That's insane. Yeah, that's awesome. All right. So the specific reason I wanted to have you on the show, and this has been a long time coming, is so we had this conversation over a post that you made about RIR, reps in reserve, or reps in reverse. Are those interchangeable terms?
Uh, no, I think it's just reps in reserve.
Reps in reserve. So we had this conversation over this post, and this was a while ago. I don't know if this was back in like the beginning of this year, the end of last year. Maybe it's not even that far, but a few months ago. And
Okay.
I think episode 9 of this podcast, so 2 episodes ago, was about when people should start to look at changing their programming if they're getting stuck. And one of the things that I talked about was RPE, which is kind of a similar sort of mechanism as RIR as far as I understand it. But when I was thinking about it, I was like, RIR would be a perfect thing to put in here. But there's one person that I know that could do it better justice than I would. I would do like a brief overview of it, and I would be
Slightly,
doing
right?
an injustice. So I thought about you for doing that, and obviously this is something that happened so long ago, and I kind of put it in your ear hole a little bit. And we had a good discussion back then. I was like, man, I'm thinking about starting this podcast. So you were kind of the first person that knew about the podcast. I was like, man, I don't know in the future if you're interested, hop on the podcast, and here we are several months later. So this is kind of like a continuation of episode 9, which is 2 weeks ago. But yeah, this is a different mechanism. If you can talk us through RIR, reps in reserve, kind of what it is and how people can implement that, that'd be fantastic.
Okay, so RIR or reps in reserve is basically how many reps you have left until failure or being unable to do another rep. So, for example, if you're doing, let's say, a bench press, right,
Mm-hmm.
and you like
My
extend
favorite.
and bring it back, and then extend and then bring it back, and then you're pushing, and it's just so difficult. Um, it involves like thinking about what you're doing, you
Right.
know. Um, so I think it's more of an advanced concept because well, can I go and talk about something else real quick
Yeah.
before RIR? So I think before worrying about RIR and RPE and all those things, it's so important to nail down your technique
Mm-hmm.
and your form, um, and just not being shaky with the way you lift. And it's okay if you are, because we all start there and we all improve. We all are in a different place. Um, and once you get past that, once you can develop a really good, solid technique, your reps look exactly the same, whether you're fresh or whether you're tired, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because just because you're tired, that doesn't mean that instead of coming all the way down to your chest, you get to do half reps. Like that doesn't count as a rep. You're not really making progress.
Right.
You're just cheating yourself. So that's just super super important that we get that down first.
Right.
So then when you move on to being a little bit more experienced, then you can try to incorporate RPE or RIR. So RIR, like I mentioned, is how close you are to failure. So for example, if it gets really difficult, your reps start to slow down, you're pushing, it's not just like a feeling of burn, so you're tired and then you stop. It's actually your muscles can no longer physically perform another rep. So how many more reps do you think that you can perform? So if I'm doing 10 and I stop at 10 with RIR2, that means that I think maybe I probably could have done 2 more, and then at that point I would have failed.
Right.
And it's really important to also keep track or have a workout journal, because oh, hold on, I lost you there for a second. Um, because if you don't, then oh man. There we go. Yeah. So yeah, I can see you. So sorry, I got another call. Um, so I think it's really important to keep a workout journal, because as you go along through your training cycle or mesocycle, like a training block, you can look back at what you previously had. So, of course, we all know that the principle of progressive overload,
Hmm.
right? What does that mean? How do you keep making things more difficult? So there's a few different things you can do. You can add more sets, you can add more weight, or you can work closer to failure. Or you can just use all three of those things.
Right.
That doesn't mean you make huge jumps in weight or like increase your sets by like 5 or 10 each week. It's a gradual thing. Um, and so, if you're doing RIR2 with the bench press, right, and you think you got 10, uh, 10 is your RIR2. The next week, you can look back at your log and say, okay, well, I'm, supposed to do RIR2 again
Hmm.
for bench press. I know for sure I can get at least 10 reps according to my training log. Um, and now you go, and it gets difficult. It's hard. You get to 10, and now you can just reassess. Like, am I really at 2 from failure? Could I maybe do another one? Maybe am I actually at 3? Because people are notoriously bad at like self-assessing
That
their
was, yeah, that
ability to
was the kind of
failure.
the thing that you said in that kind of thread that we had, was like, so that's kind of the biggest limiting factor, right? Is people's ability to actually feel how close they are to fatigue. Because you sent me that video of that dude squatting, and I know for a fact if that was me squatting way back then, that video that you sent me, I would have bailed. Like, I was done, but he had like an extra two more reps in the tank, and that's
Yeah,
where a lot of people will start to like kind of falter a little bit, right?
and of course that guy was fairly advanced. He was lifting
Right.
a lot of weight. And when you're starting out, it's easy to confuse fatigue with just like a sensation of burning or just being tired. Or if you're working in, like if you are working in the higher rep range, if you don't pick an appropriate load and it's maybe too light, you get up into like, you know past 15, past 20, like you're just going to be out of breath and tired. So
Right.
at that point, it's easy to just like give up if you're not really thinking about how close are you to failure, like what, how much more do you have in the tank. So an expression people use is like gun to head, how many more reps do you have? So like if you were in the squat rack and,
Right.
and you said you were done and I put a gun to your head, like, do you
Could you
think
do one more?
yeah, if you could say like, yeah, of course, like
Yeah, that's incredible.
I mean, there's a balance there because no one's actually put a gun to your head and tell you to do more squats, but
Right.
but you get the idea.
Right. And then the other thing, so on a week to week basis, do you have a set RIR in mind that you want to accomplish and that's already kind of written out in your programming? Or is it more fluid than that? Like you said, if you're shooting for an RIR of 2 on a bench press,
Mhm.
then that next week, let's say it really ends up feeling more like an RIR 3. Is that something where you just adjust the weight at that point to make it feel more like an RIR 2, or do you roll with that RIR 3 for a little bit? Like, how does that end up working in terms of like labeling it?
Okay, so we talked about progressive overload. So my mesocycles are usually about 5 weeks long.
Hmm.
Um, depending on I mean, usually 5 weeks, pretty standard. And then I'll have like a week deload. So that means that so the way it works is fatigue accumulates over time, and so through those 5 weeks, I want to push it as far as I can, so that my performance doesn't drop, but I get pretty close to like the top of my threshold for fatigue.
Hmm.
And then that last week I just deload, I reduce a lot of the fatigue I have, and then I start the cycle over again. So I'll try to do like week 1 and 2, I'll do 3 RIR. Week 3 and 4, I'll do 2 RIR, and then week 5, I'll do 1 RIR, 1 to 0. So like almost at failure. And as the weeks progress, because I have a log and I can look at my previous lifts, I know what numbers I like am capable of hitting.
Hmm.
And then once I reach those, I mean, at this point, I'm fairly pretty good at like gauging what I have left in the tank.
Right.
So it's not huge jumps from week 1 to week 5. Um, but each week I'm able to reassess and get a little bit closer to my true RIR goal.
Right.
Does that make sense?
So like, so let's say you're shooting for RIR2. Week one, you're doing a bench press 135. That's your true RIR2. You probably had two left in the tank. But then the next week, you feel like you did a little bit better. You probably had another rep in there. It's like really an RIR3. Does that mean you add the weight to make it again an RIR, a true RIR of two,
Oh,
or?
I see what you're saying. Okay,
Uh-huh.
so going into my training, I don't have a set amount of reps in mind.
Mm-hmm.
I just have like a rep range that I want to hit. I know approximately what weight I have to use, and I have a certain amount of sets that I want to hit. So, for example, for me personally, let's say I want to get into like the 8 to 12 range, I might choose to do 195 pounds or something, right? So I don't know exactly how many reps I'm going to get with 195 pounds right now, but I know I could probably get between like the 8 and 15 at most rep range, right?
Right.
So let's say I start with week 1. My goal is RAR3. I'll do 195 and I'll get like 7, 8, 9, 10, and I'll get to 11. It's like, okay, cool. So 11 reps on week 1. So week 2, again, RAR3. So I know for sure I can get at least 11 reps, which I'm guessing is approximately 3 RAR.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll do it. And when I get closer to 11, then I have to start thinking like, okay, like, do I really have 3 left? Maybe I have 4. Like, what is it?
Uh-huh.
And so I'll do that, and then maybe I'll do another like a 12th rep, um, and I'll feel like, okay, like this is pretty good. I think I still have 3 more. So good. So now week 3, I have 2 RAR, and I know that because last week I hit 12 with 3 RAR, this week I have to hit at least 13, right?
Right.
So then I'll go and I'll hit 13. It's like, oh man, that was tough, because I mean it may not seem like that tough to not reach failure, but like the more advanced you get and the heavier that you can lift, it's very
Different ball
fatiguing.
game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and, and also it involves not putting so much emotion into your training. So like I can't just use this as like a therapy session and just turn my mind off and
You
just
got
like go
yeah, you got
crazy.
to be still like engaged in it and like mindful of what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's weird. Like sometimes I'll like listen to super mellow music or like no music at all, and it's fine. Like that's if I need a therapy session, like I'll go to therapy. This is what this is for. Like I'm I'm just trying to get huge.
I'm dropping stuff. That's amazing. I mean, it's nice to be in there once in a while, just like brain off and like just doing stuff. But yeah, there's a little bit of mindfulness that kind of comes into play when you want to like actually make progress and be in control of your progress versus kind of just like throwing it out into the world and hoping something comes back.
Yeah, absolutely.
So a is there an RIR range that is kind of the most effective, like a range that you want to live in? Is there something as being too light? Obviously, there is something as being too light, but kind of what is that threshold, and what is the threshold on the other side as well? So like RPE, like I said, using a 1 to 10 scale, anywhere from a 6 to 8 is usually a pretty good range to live in. You can go a little higher sometimes, you can go a little lower sometimes, but the bulk of it should be kind of in that medium difficulty range kind of thing. So what's kind of the RIR equivalent of that?
Yeah, so I think it's similar to, well, I mean, I guess it's flipped for R.I.R, but yeah, between like the 4 to 1 range. If
Mhm.
you're a beginner, you can even be in like 6, 5.
Right.
Honestly, if you're just starting out, you can come into the gym, do 1 set of stuff, and leave, and you'll still make progress.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I mean, just the biggest thing is to just make sure that your technique is right. Um, it, because we talked about your target audience. You don't need to focus on this like super hardcore. Just make sure that you're lifting properly.
Right.
Like for example, with lat pull downs, Like I see some crazy things with lab pull downs, you know, and like you don't even have to be strong to do lab pull downs. You can just adjust the weight, you know, like that's all you have to do. Just use an appropriate weight.
Yeah.
Uh, and just think about having like solid machine-like form for everything,
Right.
you know, for every single lift that you do.
Right.
Um, and just one of the reasons why I don't like RPE is because there's a lot that can go into how you feel in that training session. You know, it could be like stress and maybe you had a bad day or someone cut you off and now you're not in the mood, and so maybe something that felt like it was an RPE, you know, 6 a few days ago feels like it's an RPE 9 today, just because like you don't really
Outside
want to go to the
influences.
gym and
Yeah.
outside. Exactly, you know, you're not really thinking about like what do I actually have left in the muscle that I'm trying to work.
Hmm.
So that's just one of the reasons why I don't like it, is for hypertrophy. I mean,
Right.
if you're doing powerlifting, that's different. You know, it doesn't, you can't use R.I.R.
Yeah.
You're only doing like 3 reps of stuff. You know.
That's where I kind of got so mixed up the first time we had this conversation, was because when I first started lifting, it was like very much powerlifting style. So trying to wrap my mind around what R.I.R. is was so difficult for me in that moment. And then obviously since we had that conversation, it's kind of gotten a little bit clearer for me. But it was like such a foreign concept to me. It's like, I don't know how to do this. Like I'm used to like just doing 3 sets of 3 of everything. Like this is not how I'm used to like training. It was so weird to me. The other thing I wanted to ask you about was minimum effective volume, MEV, which is, I think, I don't know if this is because it's probably so variable from person to person, but like when I had this kind of question for you, I had this one specific client in mind, and if he listens to this, he knows exactly who he is. He does, he's like less than a year in the gym, and all his workouts are like an hour and a half long, and he just wants to hit every machine. And listen, all power to him, because I think he's like, that's part of like his, you talked about therapy earlier, but I think that's part of his, like, he likes to be there. I don't think he has like, he's retired. He doesn't have a whole lot going on otherwise. So the gym is kind of his home for him, but he does a lot of volume. So when I started working with him and he had a trainer before me, you know, she had him doing a lot of this volume, and I'm like trying to take him down a little bit because I think he's like overdoing it. So I try to like fill his time with other stuff that maybe is not like the main goal for that day. We'll do like some core stuff that's, you know, kind of miscellaneous, just so he has the time to like be there for an hour and a half, because I think that's just what he wants to do. But I'm trying to take away the volume from his overall workout. So minimum effective volume, which I don't know how much of an issue it is for a lot of the people that listen to this podcast that are maybe on the beginner side or not super duper advanced. But that might be a concept that could be useful for some of the people down the road, and even when they're starting a new program or a new cycle of any sort. You know, if you can talk about minimum effective volume.
Sure. So that was actually a term or volume landmark coined by Mike Israetel. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if you've heard of him,
Mm-hmm.
from Renaissance Periodization. Super cool guy. Um,
Have you met
and
him too?
I have met him.
Of course you have. Who haven't you met?
I haven't met a lot of people, but no, he's an extremely intelligent guy, and you should honestly just read more about it on their website. So
Mhm.
I know I'm not going to do it justice by trying to briefly explain it here,
You
but
do it more justice than I would, I'm sure.
I'll do my best. Okay, so you asked about MEV earlier,
Mhm.
um, and I think that before we jump into like talking about acronyms, we should try to preface this or understand just some basic things first. So all these acronyms are is basically a label to something that you're already experiencing. You know, you may not call it MEV or MRV or whatever, but this is how everybody's physiology works. So for example, when you if the goal is to try to gain muscle, right? Um, is it reasonable to walk into the gym, do one set of something, leave, and expect to make progress or make gains? Probably not, right?
Right.
So that means there must be a minimum threshold of work that you need to accomplish in order to start making gains. Correct? Does that make
Correct.
sense?
Yeah.
Also, does it make sense that for example, you want your chest to get big, so you're in the gym 6 days a week, just hammering chest for hours, like every single day.
I know some guys like that.
Yeah. So I mean, is it reasonable to believe that you're just going to get this humongous chest where no matter how large your shirt is, it'll just never fit again? At this point, like it's just ridiculous, right?
Right.
You're not going to get a double D size chest from that. You just won't be able to recover. So again, that means there must be some sort of cap on how much work that you're able to do until it's just too much and it's not productive. So all these acronyms or labels or volume landmarks, what they're called, what they are is just you can use those to describe your personal limits or set points. So the first one, we'll just start at the bottom. It's maintenance volume, or MV.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just very simple. All this is the amount of volume that you need in order to maintain the gains that you have. It's much lower than people think. So now during the quarantine, people are like freaking out and they think they're going to lose all their muscle. You really don't have to do
2
that
days
much.
out of the gym and you're withering away.
Right. That's not how it works. It's actually really hard to lose muscle as long as you are maintaining your protein intake and doing a few hard sets a week. So for example, if you're on vacation for a week, with your significant other, and you don't have that much time to get to the gym, you can just go into the gym, do like, maybe like 5-6 hard sets on, all the different body parts or different muscle groups. And you pretty much be set. Like you're fine. You don't have to worry about losing muscle. And even if it is just a week, you can probably not work out at all and you'll be fine. But if you have to do it for, like let's say you're out of town for a month or something, you absolutely don't have time. Yeah, like 5 or 6, between 5 or 10, whatever. It might be different for different people. You don't have to do that much to maintain. So that number is very low, much lower than most people think.
Right. So the people that come out of quarantine and they look like they're like skeletons now, it's not because that they didn't have a gym, it's because they stopped doing everything altogether.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And their diet's also probably not very good either. They're not maintaining their protein intake. They're just overdoing it with carbs and fat and all that stuff.
Right.
So the next one up is minimum effective volume. So the amount of volume that you have to do, when I say volume, I mean like sets per muscle group, that you have to do in order to make gains. So minimum effective, so the least amount. And that number is different for different muscle groups. So for my arms, maybe that's, I don't know, 12 to 15. For my chest, maybe that's 8 to 10. That number can be different for different people. So I'm not going to go into how to figure that out or whatever. I'll just go.
Yeah, there's way too much variability there.
No, I mean, you can do it. It's not that hard. It just takes time. But anyway, we'll talk about that later. So the next one up from that is maximum adaptive volume. So now you're moving up in volume. And that is the basically the maximum adaptive volume is like the best place to be in order to make gains. Like that's where you make the most amount of gains. Above that is MRV, a maximum recoverable volume, and that's the most that you can recover from. So if you go past that, you're not really making gains at that point. Remember, like that, we talked about the chest illustration in the beginning. So that's basically where you are. If you're past that, if you're just hammering your chest or your quads like 4 days a week, just really hard all day long, like you're way past that. You're recovering. Your body's just trying to recover, and it's not able to like adapt or make progress.
Right, you're stuck in a loop.
Yeah, basically. So what you want to do basically is work through from minimum effective volume to maximum adaptive volume, and there's also a time to go into your maximum recoverable volume. So maybe right before a deload, there's something called a super compensation effect. So you hammer it a little bit past like where you want to be, maybe a little bit too hard, but then the following week you're resting, you're doing like half the volume or half the weight, and then you're dropping fatigue, so you don't have to worry about that either. So hopefully that makes sense. So you want to start low, go high, and then you rest and then do it again. So you want to repeat the cycle.
Right.
And some people may think that, oh, why would I want to start at MEV if I can make the best gains gains at MAV. Well, the thing is, like, what are you trying to do? Like, you're not going to get huge overnight.
Right.
Plus, muscle building takes a long time. Like, it really does. So, I mean, again, like, how long do you plan on doing this for? And also, like, why are you fighting MEV? Like, why don't you want to do this? I'm telling you that you can spend the least amount of time at the gym. Some of your like easiest training and least likely to get injured during like while you're doing MEV. You're just taking advantage of easy gains. Like, that's not a problem. That's like the best problem that you can have. If I can go to the gym and do 2 sets of stuff and leave, like, and that was it. I mean,
but I want to look like The Rock by the 4th of July.
But that's what I'm saying. If that was yeah,
right. So if we were to kind of like think of it as not maybe a metaphor, but in a different scenario. So let's say we're looking at somebody who's a runner and they want to improve on their mile time. Let's say your baseline, what's the MV?
The MV is maintenance volume.
Maintenance volume. Say your maintenance volume, your baseline is you can run a 12-minute mile all day, every day. You roll out of bed, do a little stretch, and you got a 12-minute mile, no problem, right? So then MEV, minimum effective volume, would be anything that you run that's a little bit faster than a 12-minute mile, right? Kind of that same rationale that you would potentially get faster if you were to run a consistent 11.5-minute mile pace. You would potentially bridge that gap a little bit. And like an MRV would be like just going balls to the wall every single time. Like, you're going out there just sprinting as fast as you can, right? Like, that would be too much. Obviously, you would make some sort of improvement in your mile time, but you would do so in a way that's very undesirable, and you would hurt yourself just going out there and sprinting all the time, right? So kind of finding that middle ground for your maximum adaptive volume into that process. Kind of the same thing. Is that a fair kind of metaphor, to a fair kind of comparison to make, or?
So I'm not sure that it 100% relates to like running or endurance work as it does to strength or resistance work, but sort of, yeah. So if you're a regular, if you can just get up and do a 12-minute mile and you can maintain your endurance, you can maintain your health. You're not like sore, but like just from not being active anymore because you're not running. So yeah, I guess like just if you go out and do a 12-minute mile, that's your MV. So on vacation you can just do a few of those and you'd be fine. You can come back home and get back to training. And then MEV, so that's still it still needs to be a little bit difficult for you. So it's the least amount of work you need to do in order to still make progress, to still make gains. So maybe a little bit faster, maybe like 11 minutes or
right. But it's not like you're trying to go out there and do a 6-minute mile immediately.
No, but it should still be tough.
Yeah.
Like we talked about R.I.R. So you still want to be, like maybe 4 to 1 set, 1 rep away from failure when you're doing those sets.
Gotcha. So for something like MEV, for anybody who's listening and they might want to start a different program, it's kind of just like a shot in the dark a little bit. Like, start off really light, see how that goes, and then keep going from there. Or just, obviously, because if you're going to progress through a mesocycle, let's say, and you set a really low volume that ends up not being stimulating enough to produce gains, is that just something that you worry about after the 5 weeks are over, and hopefully you kind of bridge that gap a little bit somewhere in the later weeks? Or is there like a set way to kind of think about setting your MEV?
Well, you wouldn't really be stuck at your MEV. That's maybe just the initial week of your training cycle. And that's different for everybody. So, I mean, if you guess an MEV that's too low, and you're at that for 1 week and then increase volume. Like, is it
You'll
really that
get
big of
there
a deal?
eventually.
Yeah, like it's not that big of a deal in the long term. If anything, it's good information for you in the future, because now you know that, like, okay, I did week 1, I hardly felt any soreness, I didn't get any pump, um, I just felt like nothing. So okay, that means that for my next mesocycle, I'm not gonna start so low. I'm just gonna, instead of doing like 8 total sets for my chest and front delt, you know muscles, I'm going to start with 10, and we'll see how that goes. And then so you start there, and then you can again see, like, oh, how's my soreness, how did I get a good pump, how do I feel, whatever, um, and you can go from there.
Right. So if somebody were to try and make their own kind of workout program, which in all reality, you should probably hire somebody if this is something that you're really serious about. But if somebody were to try to make their own program, it's probably better for them to undershoot their MEV than to overshoot it, right? You
Yeah,
want to start off slowly, yeah.
that's definitely what you should do. It's
Right.
much better to undershoot than overshoot. You want to undershoot in the beginning of your mesocycle, and then if you accidentally end up overshooting towards the end, that's fine, because you're going to deload.
Right.
But if you start with a volume that's too high in the beginning, then I mean, where are you going to go from there? Because
Right.
fatigue accumulates, and if you're really training, like if you're training properly, if you have good technique, and you're really like doing way too much volume at way too high of an intensity, like you're going to be so fatigued, you're not going to be able to keep up with your same numbers from the previous week, and you're just going to see, like, well, I did 10 reps for bench last week, and this week I only got 8. Like, what's wrong? I was like, well, you're doing like 24 sets, and you're sleeping 3 hours a night, and you're not eating any food. Like, what do you think is wrong?
That's fantastic. All right, cool. So anything else you want to add before we hop into like the Q&A part? R.I.R, MEV, anything?
Honestly, I really think you guys should check out Renaissance Periodization. Like, I get nothing from it. It has nothing to do with me. But like, they have excellent hypertrophy templates. There's so much information. They have like an RP Plus, which is free until like June because of this whole like Corona thing. They did that. It's just such an incredible resource, and you guys would learn a ton.
That's awesome. All right, cool. All right, Q&A. So you know these questions in advance, so I'm not bombarding you with anything.
Okay.
These are questions. So there's 3 questions. 2 of them were from people that asked me. One of them was one of my own, just because it made sense. The other ones didn't make sense to ask you. It was kind of a specific question. But first question was, does eating in a calorie deficit negatively affect your immune system?
Well, I mean,
As far as you know, because this might be like a little bit outside of our scope of practice. Let's say.
I mean, it could potentially a little bit. It depends though. Like, if you're very overweight, or if you're overweight and you're eating at a reasonable calorie deficit, you'll probably be okay. It's not that serious. You're not like 40% more likely to get sick if you're in a deficit.
Right.
But potentially, if you're in a surplus or maintenance, it's better for your immune system, potentially. Right. But I mean, it's not like huge differences.
Right. So pretty much, if you're in kind of a manageable deficit, you should be good. Obviously, anything extreme, you might, run into some problems later down the road. But
so if you're not trying to lose like 3% of your total body weight a week, like, you should be okay. Like, if you stick to like 0.5 to 1%, like, you should be okay.
Right. Which, I mean, for a lot of people, especially those who maybe are not super in the fitness industry, they might try to overshoot it, right? They might go really aggressively. But I know the person who asked me this is probably not doing that. But for some people, they could do it too aggressively and could maybe run into some immune system problems. But for most people, staying in outside of the extremes or inside of the extremes, they should be good.
Yeah, please be reasonable, people. Like, unrealistic to think
I shouldn't eat 800 calories a day.
Well, like, what do you expect is going to happen? You're not going to get abs tomorrow. Like, if you have a problem, this accumulated over a long period of time, and maybe it doesn't need to take as long to get rid of the problem, but you do have to work on developing different habits. I mean, we can diet. We can all diet, right? Like everyone has dieted. It's just like a common social thing to talk about diets. Like, what diet are you on? Like, oh, I'm trying this. But like, what are you doing after the diet? Like, do you have a plan?
Right.
You know, so if you're going to go back to what you were doing before, you're going to have that same problem again.
Right.
Um, so just be reasonable. You know, when you're in a deficit, you can, you know, and if you already have an appropriate diet, you can just eat slightly less of the foods that you're already eating. So it's important to develop an appropriate diet.
Right. And this is an offhand question that I just had. Obviously, you're into some natural bodybuilding. At your leanest, were you in like a really aggressive diet to like the point where you were grumpy, like you
Oh
were
yeah,
side dieting?
it was so weird. I've never been affected. Like my mood has never been affected by hunger. I'm not like a moody person, but yeah, it was so strange. I've never experienced anything like
Just upset all the time?
all the time. I didn't want to be around people. I was just moody and I was tired. And I'd like get home and I'd sit in my car for like 20 minutes because I didn't want to walk up the stairs to my house. Like it was bad.
Oh man, that sounds brutal. Yeah, no. No, thank you. I'm good.
But I didn't go about it like in the best way. I'm more experienced now.
Yeah. You just like crash dieted hard or just
I,
went
I
super low?
I didn't give myself enough time, and you know, like the deficit had to be pretty
Mm-hmm. You've
drastic.
done a show before?
I didn't end up doing the show.
You
I
didn't
ended
end
up
up doing it? So you prepped for the show and didn't end up going in?
yeah, but I mean, I wasn't ready. I still probably had another 10 pounds to go.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Do you think
I
you would have done well?
I mean,
Did you see the other guys or no?
no, I did see other guys. I mean, I think I would have. I don't know. I can't say those other guys were great.
Question number two. What is the worst thing about the fitness industry?
Ooh, okay. So I think the worst thing is that everyone is trying to sell you something. And the problem with that is that people coming in don't know who to trust and who to believe or what to believe. So I went to the LA Fit Expo for the first time this past year. It was the same day Kobe died, actually. And
Sheesh.
man,
All
it
right.
was, yeah. So I don't know why, like, I just had a regular t-shirt on. I honestly like, you know, I lift and like without a shirt on when I'm like, you know, just a few pounds leaner than I am now. Like, you know, I look like I lift, but like with clothes on, I mean, I don't look impressive at all, you know? And especially at the Fit Expo where everyone is huge,
Just
like
mass monsters everywhere. Yeah.
everywhere. So for some reason, like two people, you know, separate occasions came up to me and they're like, "Hey man, like I'm just getting into fitness. Like, what do you think I should do? Like, what supplements should I take?" And man, I just like I felt so bad. Like, I wish I could have just taken like my Papa Hen wings and like taken all these people to a
Start
separate like
scooping them
corner.
up everywhere.
It's like, guys, you don't need to take any of this stuff. Like, it's just
Yeah.
garbage. Like, BCAs aren't gonna help you. Like, just learn to eat properly. Learn to like train properly. Learn
Yeah.
good technique. You know, and so everyone's just trying to sell you something and make money off of you, and like that's just I hate that so much because you don't know.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, fitness is just like a big media machine, and they're just well, it's a big media and advertisement machine. Like it's just a, they're trying to scoop up as much money as possible, and that's kind of the terrible thing about it. And like I think the other kind of big thing that bothers me about the fitness industry is like the barrier to entrance is non-existent. Anybody can just become a fitness trainer, a fitness influencer, anything. So like there's people out there like you said selling stuff and even spewing garbage that just doesn't make any sense. And for kind of the normal person walking around the street, they don't know how to distinguish what's what, and it could be
Right.
a very tricky situation to kind of navigate for a lot of people.
Yeah. If you're good at marketing, you know, you'll sell, but it doesn't mean you know anything about what you're selling or what you're saying.
Right. Absolutely. All right, one more question. One thing you wish you knew at the beginning of your fitness journey. So 2014 Arman, right before you got, or right as you got into fitness, what do you wish you know now that you knew then? I said that backwards, but you get what I was trying to say.
Probably nutrition.
Hmm.
Because I always like I was always a chubby kid growing up. And that's something I always struggled with. And as soon as I like learned about nutrition, I learned how to lose weight, and I even got to the point where I was like intentionally gaining weight, to gain muscle.
Right.
Uh, that was a huge game changer, because even though like I wasn't at my ideal weight, it didn't really matter anymore like what I looked like, because like I had control, and if I wanted to, like I could just eat the right things and do the right things, and lose the weight in the next, well, I mean, not tomorrow, but I could just start tomorrow, and
Right.
I'll be there in the next like couple months, and it was fine. So at this point, like I'm pretty comfortable with all of that, because I understand nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's basically almost like a superpower, if you can manipulate your body composition.
Yeah.
No one knows how to do that, and unfortunately, unfortunately that's the case, because it's not that complicated. But there's just so much bad information out there, and again, like everyone's trying to sell you some like crazy diet or some like weird plan or some crazy trick, and
Right.
it's not like that.
100%. So before the whole coronavirus shutdown, what was your like goal in that moment? And has it changed since you've been locked in your house, or has it stayed the same?
No, it hasn't really changed. Everything's pretty much the same. I had to make a couple adjustments with training. Sorry, the light. Um, but yeah, I ended up making like this ghetto like barbell out of a post,
I saw that. That was amazing.
fence post. So it has these hooks on it, the barbells. I'm sorry, the dumbbells hook on the post, and so they kind of hang, and it's like almost like an earthquake bar. I don't really like it, but it is what it is right now.
Better than nothing. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. So, I mean, I'm not doing like any crazy home workouts or whatever. Like, I still have my same routine, same plan. Still using like doing R.I.R in my training, and increasing my sets. And I'm like kind of limited with how much weight I can increase, because I just have a few dumbbells.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just sticking to increasing sets and increasing reps. Um, but yeah, so right now my goal is to just diet down a little bit more. I think what is like May, so I think probably till like the end of,
Forgot what month it is?
yeah, I know. It's all just one. So yeah, probably till like mid June or end of June, I'll diet down a little bit, and then I'll mass for a few months, and then do another little mini cut, and then mass some more, and
Gosh,
then maybe
getting ready for beach season.
no. Uh,
All right. Last thing. So I gave you all the Q&A questions in advance, but I just want to do a rapid fire questions, and I didn't tell you these because I wanted a split-second reaction to them.
oh,
But it's nothing crazy.
is it just like a yes or no or what?
No, but it's easy. They're easy questions. I just
Okay.
wanted to get your, like spur of the moment answer for these. They're
Okay.
really easy. So question number one is what's your favorite cheat food? I don't like
Cheat-
the word cheat food.
Oh, ice cream.
Ice cream.
Yeah.
Any specific flavor, specific brands?
So there's,
Oh yeah, that's nice. You
okay,
like a Ben and Jerry's guy, or?
Ben and Jerry's is good. I really like chunky ice cream with like lots of stuff inside of it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this one company called Salt and Straw. It's
Mm-hmm.
originally from Portland. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a couple locations here in LA and San Diego and all the areas around. So that's my go-to. It's my favorite.
They actually have like physical locations, because we don't
Yeah.
have those here.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. If you
man.
could buy pints, you should.
I know they sell them online, but they're like pretty pricey to like ship them or whatever. Did you see the on Disney Plus? Jeff Goldblum has a show, and he talked about ice cream. I think in the first episode, he went to Ben and Jerry's, and then he talked about Salt and Straw in like the second part of the show. That's how I know about them. But they were doing some weird flavors. It was like blood in there. I don't know. I could be misremembering it, but it was very strange.
Every month they have like 5 new flavors,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes they'll rotate them every year. It just depends. And sometimes they have new ones, and then they have their core flavors.
Right.
So, but yeah, I think they actually just opened up a location in downtown Disney, in Anaheim here. So I think maybe that's why I was on the show. But it's a really good place. If you get a chance, you should go.
That's cool. Isn't that the one that The Rock invested in, or am I just making this up?
Maybe, I don't know.
I feel like maybe that's the one. I could be wrong, but so question number 2, which you kind of answered this a little bit earlier. What's your favorite music to lift to?
Um,
You said you don't listen to music sometimes, but when you are listening to music,
let's see. Recently it's been kind of like electronic or like hip hop or I'll just do Pandora. I don't even like use
nothing specific.
what's that other one? The green Spotify. Yeah, I don't use.
Spotify.
I hate choosing my own music. It's so nice when it just like plays, you know.
I mean, you can make stations on Spotify.
I guess I never like got into it.
Right. So
So
just whatever comes on, pretty much.
yeah, I like this one station, Mira Mesa. Do you know that band or group? No, they have some pretty good stuff. It's like
Never
electronic.
heard of it. No, I'm not big into EDM or
It's not.
electronic. Uh, I don't know. Clearly I don't know what the difference is.
It's not like techno. You know, I don't like techno, but it has more like it's melodic and it has some bass and it's kind of like a mild dubstep.
Gotcha. I mean, I might get into it. I don't know. We'll see. I
We'll
listen
see.
to like primarily rock, so like I don't know.
Yeah, when I was growing up, my brother played the guitar, and so I'm just over rock. It was just
You've had enough.
night. I couldn't sleep. You know, you never use headphones.
Oh my God. Favorite lift?
Favorite lift? Ooh, um, that's so hard. Oh, probably hack squat.
Whoa. I've only done that a few times. Hated it.
Oh, it's like the best. I mean, that's like the secret weapon that people don't know about.
I think I did it wrong the first time, and that probably like soured my taste after that. And then like the gym that I go to now doesn't. Well, I don't go to a gym now. Clearly, nobody goes to a gym now. But the gym that I was going to doesn't have a hack squat anymore. So I kind of like
Yeah, yeah. You
steered
should
clear
go
of it
back
a
to
little
that
bit.
if you can.
The gym that I was going to was like an old school bodybuilding gym that had a bunch of like weird machines. They had the vertical leg press. Uh,
Oh yeah.
that was really strange. I've done that a few times. It's a very weird feeling. Obviously, there's like a safety, so it's not going to kill you, but it just like
Right. Yeah, it
is
does like
super
a lot of
intimidating.
like your hams and your glutes. Like it really gets you.
Yeah. Yeah. Whenever you do that, you got to be wearing long shorts because they'll ride up. All right. One more question to wrap up the show. What is your favorite Will Smith movie?
Oh, it's so hard. No, I mean Hancock was cool.
that's
Um,
that's a good choice.
I just like superheroes.
That's a
So
good choice. So Marvel or DC?
DC.
Smart man. Smart
Yeah.
man. I think that's it. That's all the questions that I had for you. Is there anything that you would like to say? You would like to plug your Instagram, whatever the case may be.
Wow.
Anything.
Feels so honored. It's like my first podcast.
Well,
So
rolling out the red carpet, whatever you want.
so well, I guess I'll plug my Instagram is cheesy fit with his two E's and a Z.
Mhm.
Um, I do online coaching, which is it's called Sentinel Intelligence.
That's a sick name.
Find all that on my Instagram. You know, fun fact actually, Sentinel Intelligence is a term coined in anxiety research. And people who are anxious have something called sentinel intelligence, and they're able to. That means like they're able to detect like dangers, or I think they were able to detect um, like carbon monoxide or something before anybody else, just because they were so anxious. So that's
So it's
they.
like a Spidey sense.
I guess it's like a spidey sense.
Mhm.
Yes, they called it sentinel intelligence. So
That's
I'm not anxious. I'll help you get over your anxiety and hopefully help you with your fitness needs as well. Uh, but also, I really want to plug RP seriously. Like, if you guys want to learn more about like the scientific part of training and nutrition and have a really good understanding, or if you just want like a training program, super excellent training programs, lots of information on there, so check that out.
Yeah, and I'll get all that information from you. I'll put it in the Instagram post, the description of the podcast, all that fun stuff. So it's easier to find than trying to figure out where in the podcast you said it and all that fun stuff. So they'll have a little bit of a information reservoir for them to pick from. But I think that's it. This was a ton of fun. First interview for me, first interview for you in the books. I think we did a pretty decent job.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. First ever Made to Excel Fitness podcast guest. This was a ton of fun. Maybe we'll do it again in the future.
I was waiting for that.
What was that?
So I was waiting for that.
Do it again in the future? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, dude, this was a ton of fun. I mean, we broke the ice. This is, hopefully they got a lot of good information out of it. You are the brainiac of the podcast so far.
Not at all. Not honestly.
I'm a surface scratcher. You go a little bit under.
I'm just like slightly under. I'm like slightly under the scab. I'm not even, skin deep.
Well, I mean, people get way deep, and there's a lot of rabbit holes to be, to fall into. So, I think we're in a pretty good, yeah, and we'll keep doing this, man. This is a ton of fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And by the way, nice mustache.
I appreciate it. Likewise, we're the creepy stash brethren right now.
That's right.
All right, thanks a lot. Take it easy. Now I got to figure out how to. Hopefully I don't lose all this. That'd be terrible.
I'm gonna go offer some candy to my neighbors. All right, see you later.
What's up, Mark? How you doing, man? Hunter Henry, LA Charger tight end. Best big time shout out to your fitness podcast, the Made to Excel Fitness podcast. So super cool, man. Got a lot going on. Bolt ganger, don't bang.
Whenever you're ready, man. I love it. And the same shirt. That's so great. Oh my God. That's fantastic.
That's good. That's good, right?
That's so great. I'm definitely keeping that in there.